Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. I'm Jordan Rabel.
I'm Caleb Terrence.
You got anything to segue?
No, we already had a whole bit that got ruined by fucking around with the.
Well, we have a new
pod
SD
track.
card, so this seems like it's working well.
It seems like it's working.
We've been through a fucking adventure already today. We're like already tired, like we've already recorded 2 episodes. We haven't, but it's like you came over, you forced me to buy you tendies and beer. You didn't like my beer, so we had to go out and get a new SD card and beer, but there wasn't beer at that location.
You didn't like the beer either. You looked at it and you were like, hey, I remember that tasting like shit. Why don't I get it? You told me you remembered it tasting like shit. It's that pumpkin Elysian ass.
You know, it's the same reason that I go back to Arby's every so often, too, is I'm just like, it couldn't have been that bad.
But it was, wasn't it?
Arby's is okay.
The pumpkin beer is like, ugh. Like, it's fine, and I don't, like, I'm not against the pumpkin spice thing. It's tasty and coffee and such, but no, not in the fucking beer.
No, this is, this is fine, though. We're gonna go hard liquor. This is fine. We should be fine by the end of this. This is
Stop looking at me like that, I'll be fine.
This is only 8 pages compared to what we usually do, you know? So it should be perhaps a shorter episode, but I feel like we're going to have a lot to talk about, given the subject matter.
Oh, boy.
So, let's get started, shall we?
Is it bad? Or is it just interesting?
It's interesting.
Okay.
Some shit. It's a little bad.
Is it literal shit? I don't want to do any more news of the scat fetishes. Like, why has this come up so fucking much? You're kind of projecting a little bit, bud.
God, that's kind of true, isn't it?
Yes. You keep introducing men who like farts.
It must be authors, you know? They're just into it. There's something about the creative process that makes you want to smell farts.
It is my muse.
Hark, she sings.
Oh, God.
God damn it. All right.
You cleared out, bud?
More ways than one.
Oh. Henry
Joseph Darger Jr. was born April 12th, 1892 at his family home in Chicago, Illinois, to Henry Darger Sr. and Rosa Fulman. Before little Henry was born, his mother Rosa had 2 other children, but their whereabouts and lives are completely unknown. As Rosa gave birth to her 4th child, she contracted an infection that led to a strong fever, which ultimately took her life. Henry was just 4 years old. Henry's little sister was not bothered with a name, as she was quickly given up for adoption after just a month.
Brutal.
Now, it's possible that the 2 older siblings of Henry's were given up for adoption too, or they could have left home to pursue their own lives, or fucking died. We have no idea because Henry has no idea. All we know is that despite their constant poverty, poor, disabled Henry Sr. decided to keep Henry Jr. around. Sr. was a tailor that could barely walk, and because of this, Jr. had to make his way through Chicago streets for errands, which of course was fraught with peril. Henry Darger would go on to say that his earliest memories are either of him getting into a fist fight with a group of boys or throwing ashes into the eyes of a little girl. He's not sure which.
But they both definitely happened.
For sure. Well, either way, what little money was left over from groceries and supplies, Henry was allowed to spend on books. His father taught him to read the newspaper to him while he worked, which led to little Henry being a very avid reader. When it was time for Henry Jr. to start school, he was instantly skipped to the 3rd grade level based on his reading skills alone, just at the age of 7. Unfortunately, and I will be saying unfortunately a lot this episode, by the time he was 8, his father's poor health landed him at St. Augustine's Home for the Aged. And with no one to care for little Henry, he was moved to a Catholic orphanage, not far from where his father was kept.
Are we gonna? Okay, so we're not doing another poop fetish. Oh, is this going to be a spanking thing? Is that what we're alluding to? I mean, I'm sure you're going to bring this up. He's going to a fucking Catholic school, and it's you, so...
Abuse is there, but not necessarily spanking.
Okay.
I guess.
I'm not excited.
Nor should you be. This is going to be kind of a bummer.
I'm already bummed out.
Now, this was all supposed to be temporary, while his father received care. His father did try to get him out of there.
No, you don't temporarily go into the old folks' home. That's not how that works. We're just going to move you here for a little bit. No. No.
When he was well enough to travel for just a short time, Henry Sr. came to the orphanage with a relative to get custody of his son again. But this isn't like a daycare where you can just pick up your kid after work and just take off. No, Henry Jr. was legally an orphan, so his own father and this relative would have to earn custody again. Yeah, they would have to earn back the custody. Oh. But because the proprietor of the school, Father Murphy, wasn't there, he couldn't. Like, that was the only guy that he could talk to, and I was like, oh, today's his day off. And it's like, that's my son. He's just right there.
This is my only day off, so
yeah,
that I'm going to get forever.
After that, Henry Sr. became too ill to ever step foot out of St. Augustine's Home for the Aged again. Little Henry was stuck there. And like any good Dickensian Catholic orphanage, it was a terrible place to be. Dickensian. Charles Dickens was an author that loved to talk about orphan boys just getting abused, and it was really, really fucking funny. Like, each time. It was hilarious.
And this relates to Dickensian how?
It's not funny, but the abuse is still there, because it's real.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, just go on.
You see, on top of the horrible conditions, Henry was beginning to develop behavioral issues. And granted, we don't know exactly what these issues were, but from all accounts, it sounds like Henry would just sit in the back of the class and make little noises and giggle at them. Because sadly, he was just trying to be goofy in a new place to try and make some friends. Unfortunately...
Catholic school is not the place, homie.
Yeah, unfortunately...
Fuck, regular school is not the place, homie, let me tell you.
Henry's little distractions caused him the ire of both teachers and classmates. The other kids nicknamed him crazy and would routinely pick on Henry in the schoolyard. Once, he was ganged up on by 4 other boys. When he grabbed a stick to defend himself, one of the nuns, of course, blamed the whole thing on Henry's violent behavior.
Well, there's 4 of them.
Yeah, and of course, that's the only thing that she's going to see is she's like, well, of course there were 4 of them. He had a stick. Like, but it wasn't just these little noises in class that pissed the teachers off, though. Remember, before this, Henry was jumped 3 grades and learning at a much higher level than his peers. Going from that to a dirty fucking little orphanage, I'm sure the learning experience was a bit of a downgrade. So when the teacher made what Henry would assume is a mistake, he pointed out, try to help. This is practically a death sentence if you're an orphan in 1900. Basically, Henry's constant interruptions was the first and only straw for the staff at the Mission of Our Lady of Mercy. So he was transferred 162 miles away to what is now called the Lincoln Developmental Center, but back then was known as the Illinois Asylum for Feeble-Minded Children.
So they sent him to another place where kids actually attack each other with sticks?
Yeah, well, a place that's actually, like, bad. Like, before it was like, oh, well, of course they smacked them.
Sounds like it's pretty bad already.
Well, but before that, it was like, okay, sure they beat the shit out of them. They're Catholic nuns. Like, that's fine. It's 1900.
That's the whole bit, yeah.
Of course they do that. But when you go to an asylum back in 1900, it's like, all right, now it's on. Like, kids out there with fucking, like, gang tats on the webbing of their fingers. Like,
Jesus Christ, Jordan.
I'm in here for tax evasion.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And this place was rife with abuse. The patients were neglected, abused, and in some instances, fucking died.
Whoa.
Now, while it is difficult to find specific accounts of this, I will say that there is an on-site cemetery that houses a little over 1,800 graves.
Whoa.
Where most of the markers don't have a birth date or a death date, just the name.
Is that just... So is it like just a big old pit, or how much space do they have? Sounds like a lot. They've
got like fields. They've got acres. Because as you're going to find out, they work on acres too to just while away the hours as well. I'm sure that they had kids digging these fucking pits.
They just tend to the graves of the children that died there.
Basically, they're like, okay, well, we can't have dead bodies laying about in the hallways. We gotta take care of those.
Well, yeah,
like, what
sanitary.
Should we feed them? Like, well, I cut open a bag of grain. What do you want? Like, at least some of them are gonna get feed. It's fine. Ugh. But as someone was later able to figure out, there were so many patients dying here that the staff didn't bother to fill different plots at different times and just jump around the plot like normal cemeteries do. No, they were filling in the spaces in order. They had to, because the patients were dying too fast.
Wait. This is all children, right?
Yeah. And these kids were just dying at such a rate. They were like, should we go over there and dig next and kind of space it out? And they're like, no, dude, we got another one dying, like, on the way. We need to dig this next one quick. Just step a foot over and be good with it.
I wish we were doing farts.
You wanted this.
No, I didn't.
The Lincoln Developmental
I just
Center.
didn't want farts.
The Lincoln Developmental Center was overcrowded and understaffed. And if you were unfortunate enough to fucking die there, rumor is that there are unmarked graves somewhere near the official cemetery that you might get dumped in. And these deaths were very rarely investigated. The Lincoln Developmental Center was operational from when they first opened their doors in 1877 until they finally closed due to the stack of allegations against them in 2002.
When someone found out there was a pit of dead children there, yeah.
Yeah. 2002, though, that's only 20
Whoa,
years
holy
ago.
Shit. You said 2000 until 2002.
Yeah.
They ran this shit.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, though, is like, if you're going to take allegation after allegation and try to investigate them one at a time, like, I'm sure that there were families out there, like, paying an investigator to be like, please look for my son. And it's like, it's going to be, well, no. That's not what this is. This is just a developmental center. This is where just it was a loony bin for kids, but it was like, please look out where little Johnny went to. And it's like, it's going to be really hard to do, but since you're paying me for this specific kid, I can only dig up a little bit of evidence. However, if you look at the grand scheme of things, it's like, oh, they are for sure burying a shitload of kids out here.
Jesus,
like,
fuck, dude.
Right? Well, here at the asylum for feeble-minded children back in 1900, they saw Henry Darger as totally fit to be there. The reason? Quote-unquote, self-abuse. It was because he discovered jerking off.
Oh.
Now, according...
Self-abuse. Okay.
New term. Now, according to Darger himself, he didn't actually mind it at the asylum too much. He had his enemies there, sure, but he also made friends. From what he made it sound like, it kind of seems like there would be just these roving gangs of children there, and maybe Henry had to join a clique or something for protection like it was fucking prison. I don't know. But he said he has some quote-unquote good times there. He did mention, though, that the meanest kid, and practically his nemesis, was a kid named John Manley. We'll get to him a bit later. I'm John Manley! Hey, kid, that's my corn!
I don't want to joke about any of this. At all. That's not the vibe today, man. Okay? This is like a children's concentration camp. This is 100% what you're discussing with me right now.
Don't make it funnier. Stop it.
Oh, God, dude. All right, man, dig yourself deeper. Go on.
Well, they did. However...
The shovel's to get you out, dumbass. Come on. There he goes.
However...
Wow.
One thing the Lincoln Developmental Center was partially known for was its child slave labor. And of course, Henry's experiences there were no exception. The kids would be carted off to a nearby farm where they were forced to do farm work, mostly tending crops and raising livestock.
Wait, what do we know what most of the kids were dying from?
Just neglect. It could have been anything, honestly. If there was a sickness sweeping through, it didn't seem like they really had nurses on staff to like bother with any medicine. If they were too like mentally undeveloped to feed themselves or something, they're gonna probably starve. Like it really does not seem like they really were tending to much. Like I can imagine, like it really was just like fucking like a Tijuana prison. Just kids are roving around doing their own thing. It was a Mad Max scenario, basically. Yeah. The daily routine on the farm typically lasted from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m, with just one 30-minute lunch break in between. They also had child wranglers on horseback to watch after the kids, just in case they tried to make a run for it.
What the fuck do you need to be on a horse for? Just hire somebody that can run. What the fuck?
Look, you're going to understand this once you get a little bit older and maybe aren't... These men are not arborists, all right? They're not keeping in shape.
You don't have to be in shape to catch a kid. They have tiny little legs.
Some of these kids
It's so easy to catch
Some of these kids
kids.
are teenagers,
Did you ever get chased by an adult when you were a kid and you thought you were being fucking funny and getting away with some shit and then they just fucking gained on you? Like,
yeah, see, here was the thing, though. I come from a family of weight. So when I ran, I won.
How fucking fat was your family? I've seen them. They're not that big. They're not like as big as you are now.
No, they had gout and other issues.
Anyway,
though.
I'm saying you can't blame this on genetics. It's no fault.
Sure. Look, if they're going to say, hey, you could either run after this kid or since we're on a farm,
You look
we
like
can
the
afford
merchant from Resident Evil 8.
we can afford
Like, they did you
horses.
so dirty. That dead ass is exactly what you look like.
I felt very cold. As soon as I saw that guy, I was like, see, he needs a whole carriage.
I called you immediately. I was so excited.
Well, if they're going to ask these guys, like, hey, would you rather like run after these kids or we could give you a horse? Yeah, you're going to take a horse every time. Why wouldn't you?
God damn it.
It's
They probably
fun.
took so much better care of the horses.
It's
than
way
the
more
kid.
fun.
Ugh.
Well, after 8 years at the asylum, the news got handed down to Henry that his kindly old father had died at St. Augustine's. Not once was he allowed to visit his father while at the asylum. And similarly, he would not be allowed to attend his father's funeral either. So at the age of 16, while working at the farm, Henry made a break for it. He tried to lose the men on horseback through the cornfields, but they lassoed him around the neck and forced him to run back to the farm, lest he be dragged behind the horse. 8 years old. No, wait, sorry. 8 years at the asylum, so he's
16. You just said 16, didn't you?
Yeah. Strangely, this escape attempt worked the next 2 times that Henry attempted it. The second time he tried to escape, though, he managed to hop a boxcar and ride the train all the way to Chicago.
Fuck yeah.
Unfortunately, once there, he became lost and hungry, so he turned himself over to the authorities, unsure of what to do. And of course, they sent his ass right back to the asylum in Lincoln. But the following year, in 1909, Henry successfully escaped, again riding a boxcar to the city, and found himself alone in Chicago at the age of 17. He would later look back at this time at the asylum compared to the rest of his life, and say his running away from the Lincoln Developmental Center was a mistake. Quote, "Do you think I might be fool enough to run from heaven if I get there?"
What the fuck? God damn it, this guy's gonna be fucked up.
Oh, yeah. Now, when he arrived in Chicago, Henry immediately went to someone he simply referred to as his quote-unquote godmother. No idea who it was, but the best bet is that she might have been the same relative Henry's dad brought to him when at the orphanage 9 years prior. Don't know how he found her either, but whatever. Like, my thought is maybe, like, when he was a kid and not incarcerated anywhere, maybe he went with his dad to that godmother, and she still lived there. Maybe. But she quickly found him a job as a janitor at St. Joseph's Hospital, where he would also live, essentially in a small back room. On the morning of April 8th, 1911, the daughter of Czech immigrants, 5-year-old Elsie Perubek, went missing. Now, don't worry, Henry had nothing to do with this. There was a month-long manhunt looking for this little girl. At first, the police were harassing gypsies, but after learning that Elsie was last seen with an organ grinder, started accosting the Italians instead.
Kids missing. All right, start checking the minorities.
Yeah, well, I like that, though, where they were just like, it was gypsies. And they were like, no, she was with a street musician. The Italians! Like, Jesus Christ. Sadly, the little girl was...
There's less of them. It's less likely that someone from that group did it. There are more of the other white people. Like,
Well, sadly, the little girl was later found murdered, and while the police had their suspicions, the killer was never caught. Anyway, Elsie's disappearance was huge news in Chicago at the time. Her face was in the papers everywhere. And remember, Henry Darger was himself a severely abused child. He practically saw the face of little Elsie as a martyr for all children. He started carrying around her photograph from the newspaper everywhere he went.
Martyrs work. She just got killed.
To him, he was like, she's truly an angel. Like, she is just above. She is the abused child, for she has been murdered. And it's like, yeah, that happens all the time.
It's tragic, man, but it's the fact that you're carrying around a picture of her is starting to trouble me a little bit.
Right. Now, but I got to reiterate, he had nothing to do with it. We know this for a fact, okay?
Okay, cool.
But it does get, it's weird.
Yeah, don't do the documentary bullshit on me.
Well, one day, his work locker gets broken into, Henry's. And among the items stolen is this... Yeah, he's at the hospital. Okay. Among the items stolen is this photo of Elsie, which he had in either his jacket or pants pocket. So when they snatched those, it was gone. I mean, he had this photo for a long time. This was maybe a couple years after Elsie's body had already been found. She was old news. With the photo gone, there was no way Henry would ever get it back. Old newspapers just didn't go back that far. He took this loss extremely hard. Honestly, I think he was kind of pretending that this photo of Elsie was his own daughter or something. In his diary, he said that he saw the theft of this photograph as a, quote, huge disaster that will never be atoned for and shall be avenged to the utmost limit. Don't worry, he doesn't do a shooting or anything.
Okay.
Yeah. Henry didn't know what to do. He never spoke to anyone. He didn't have any hobbies to occupy his time. His entire life was just going to work and returning to his room. And now the one thing he held close to himself was gone. Not sure how else to occupy his time. Probably sometime around 1913, Henry Darger began to write a story called The Story of the Vivian Girls in what is known as the Realms of the Unreal, of the Glandaco-Anglican war storm caused by the Child Slave Rebellion.
That's the whole fucking title?
Yeah. Or what most people just call In the Realms of the Unreal, for short.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that a bit later. No, say the whole thing every time. Anyway, in 1917, Darger was drafted into the tail end of World War I and sent to Camp Logan in Texas for the Army. I'm sure he did fantastic. Not long after, he was honorably discharged for, quote, eye trouble, but I'm almost certain there were other factors as well. Well, pretty immediately after this, Darger tried for adopting a child.
Yeah, you never stop being class clown.
Yeah, he never stopped being a little out there. I mean, he's a bit older now, and he's like... He never got a formal education.
Yeah, of course. He's not going to be normal after that.
Right, exactly. So I think they probably just want to kind of like get rid of him. They're like, well, he's not touching himself, but like, can we just get rid of him anyway? Like,
self-abuse.
He stubbed his toe and cried. I haven't seen that for a long time. Like, that's... So he tried adopting for a child when he got out, and he was quickly denied. We only know about this because of public records. He never spoke of this, and while I know it seems creepy, the more you learn about Henry, the more you realize that he didn't see himself as an adult. To quote Henry Darger, all grown-ups, especially all types of strangers, were less than the dust beneath my feet. I don't think he wanted to adopt a son or daughter as much as he just wanted to, like, adopt a friend.
This guy is so fucking scary.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
I know.
I don't. Like, where is this going? What is he gonna do?
Luckily, nothing. He's not actually going to do anything to anybody.
We're just checking off fucking boxes on the serial killer list as we go, dude.
Yeah, he seems like, oh, Jack the Ripper. When was that?
Was abused. Like,
yeah,
obsessed about a little girl. Titled the book something fucking insane. Like,
well, in 1922, after 13 years on the job, Henry quit his career as a janitor at St. Joseph's Hospital due to a furious hatred of a nun that worked there. I wonder if she reminded him of earlier abuse at the orphanage or like at the asylum.
Yeah, totally, dude.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But although he was hating on this nun, that's not to say Henry was against religion by any means. Henry Darger was a very devout Catholic and went to mass as many as 5 times.
Check.
5 times a day. In frustration, he would blaspheme, just taking the Lord's name in vain to get back at the guy. But when he calmed down, he would go into several prayers to get back onto God's good list. You're right, this is a little...
This is... There's no other direction that this could be going right now.
Anyway, after quitting St. Joseph's, he quickly got a job as a dishwasher at another hospital in new lodgings nearby. He was in this new apartment for 10 years until 1932, when a new landlord took over and let Henry know that he had plans to build an illegal still there at the apartment, as prohibition would continue for at least another year. Henry Darger, a grown-ass man of 40 at this time, moved 2 whole-ass blocks away for fear that the still would create an explosion that would level entire city blocks.
He's done so much and at the same time so little.
Yeah. There's a lot to say about him, but his day-to-day activities were pretty much going to mass and staring at a wall in his room, and it was here on the 3rd floor of 851 West Webster Avenue that Henry would spend the rest of his life. Now, regardless of living in the boarding house with 3 other families on this floor alone, no one really knew too much about Henry Darger, including how to say his last name. According to his neighbors, he'd change the pronunciation every time they asked. Sometimes he'd give it a little inflection and be like, "Oh, my name is Darger," or like, "It's Darger." Like
You want to know how I got these scars?
I feel like he would have identified more with the Joker movie than with the Dark Knight.
Would have been one of those guys.
Yeah, just in the first 5 minutes of the Joker, and he gets kicked in the balls by kids, and he's like, "Oh, me too."
Jesus, dude.
Now, regardless, how
many pages are left of this?
We're like halfway through.
Oh God.
In fact,
hey, come on over, Caleb. I'm gonna bum you the fuck out. Like, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
if somebody even tried talking to Henry, he'd usually give a quick prattling response about the weather, run into his room and shut the door, and be heard carrying on the conversation like he never left. As a matter of fact, people could hear a whole cast of characters in Henry's apartment at all hours of the day, all in different dialects and accents. But no one ever saw anyone enter or leave Henry's apartment. Sometimes people could hear him reliving arguments with the abusive nuns from his past. It's fun. It's fun.
This is the most unfun fucking thing we've ever done together. And you've picked me up drunk in like 5 parking lots, and it's still up above.
Yeah,
this.
but that's usually because there was a great story behind it. We'd have fun and everything. It's like, oh, what did this old man do? He just carried on conversations in his room by himself and relived the past of his abusive childhood.
This isn't even fun fucked up. This is just fucked up.
I'm into it.
I want another rum and coke. I'm gonna go get another rum and coke.
Here.
But no, that one I put too much booze in. I don't like it.
Well, all right.
All right, good posy poos.
Yeah. All right. But that's not to say Henry never had friends. He made one friend during his early years in Chicago, a man named William Schloeder, who for whatever reason looked past all of Henry's eccentricities and saw instead the similarities between Henry and himself. That may not be a good sign, actually. They both had a strong desire for the safety of children. Talked about it so damn often.
Form of an insane person.
They talked about it so often that they were in the planning stages to set something up called the Children's Protective Society, which would take children out of dangerous situations and place them with loving families instead. This was all happening in the 1930s before the Child Protective Services.
That sounds great. Who's organizing it? Oh, the guy who has a whole cast of characters that he talks to himself with in his apartment alone.
Yeah, and this was before the CPS was actually established in 1976. So they were thinking about doing it 40 years ahead of them. Unfortunately, William Schloeder moved away sometime in the 30s, but still stayed an active pen pal with Henry until William's death in 1959. After almost 50 years of friendship, which of course Henry took very hard. But sure, Henry was a little fucking weird, but people just assumed he was a shell-shocked war veteran because he would walk around in his old World War I army jacket he got from when he first enlisted. Plus, he'd do all manner of weird shit. He would collect trash he found on the street, mostly discarded eyeglasses, and would take broken rubber bands he found back to his apartment and glue the ends together to fix them and keep them for later.
What do you want me to say?
I don't know. Like your mouth was open and you're just staring.
Yeah, it's just fucking weird, man. It's fucking weird, and we should probably do an entire episode just on this that Lincoln place. Like, what the fuck? A lot of questions about that. Until 2002,
don't know how
there's
many
no
authors.
way it was that naughty the whole fucking time. What went down there?
Yeah, someone ought to look into that. But that's not for this podcast. Because only one author that I know went there.
Fucking lazy bastard. Get on the internet.
No, you get on the internet.
No, you're the one who knows how to do that.
No, I heard it was dangerous. Yeah. Also, every time he entered the shared bathroom on his floor, he'd say, "Abasada," in a really low voice. Abasada. One time he was asked by another tenant why he never bathed, and he said it was because he was Brazilian before he quickly walked away.
Got him again, boys.
This red-pilled motherfucker. And he was a definite hoarder. He once gave his landlord a used Valentine's Day card with Valentine's Day scratched out and wrote happy birthday instead. I think he also found a cigar that was in like pretty good shape and gave that to him too. Henry would call his landlord Mr. Leonard instead
he
of
halfies as gifts.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking gross.
He called his landlord Mr. Leonard instead of Mr. Lerner because Lerner was too Jewish sounding a name. So he honored him with a more Catholic sounding one instead.
Is he racist or just...
Look, nobody taught him anything. I think he has no fucking idea. I think that he's probably picked up things on the street that he's heard people say, and he's just like, well, that must be true. I heard it.
I mean, let's not... Yeah, I mean...
I don't think he has any fucking idea.
He's an insane person to begin with. I don't know why.
Oh, here, we're going to get into this in a moment, but he doesn't really know what things are and how the world works. He always had trouble with money, too. With what little he was paid as a dishwasher, he usually spent his money on taking discarded advertisements he'd find in the trash and take them to a Photoshop that, for like $3 a page, would blow it up to a larger size. So he'd take these enlarged advertisements back to his room to make it easier to trace the images on paper.
Does he do anything not fucking insane?
No.
Like, you're just... Everything he does is fucking weird, dude.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
He would take these enlarged images and trace them on pieces of paper to make his own murals. But we're going to touch on that later. He never really even had to pay for food either. There were restaurants on the block that would just feed him because they thought he was this vagrant war veteran, and he'd bring back scraps of meat for the landlord's dog. So, I mean, not all bad, I guess. One time he insisted that his landlord give him a Christmas present of knocking a week's worth of rent off his bill. This then became a New Year's gift, and then a Valentine's Day gift, and then a St. Patrick's Day gift. He essentially only had to pay $30 a month while everyone else was paying $40. Another time he ran up to his landlord, unable to come up with the rent, and he was like, I was just raped by a beautiful 17-year-old Italian girl. I can't pay for food or rent. Mr. Leonard, you must give me some money.
Sir, did you spend your rent money on a prostitute?
No, he had no idea what rape meant, but he knew it sounded like a good excuse. Once he got too old and fragile to walk to the local restaurants to get his free food, a couple that lived in one of the other apartments would make him a couple meals a day. However, when they went away for a couple of days of camping one weekend, they had another neighbor promise to feed him, but she forgot.
Did you leave food out for him? No. Oh, damn it. Should we turn around? No.
When they came back from their trip, Henry walked out of his apartment wearing an upcycled bunny costume he was wearing for warmth and said, "Did you forget about me?" Terrifying.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, man.
You did this to me after I was just raped.
I won't forget about you ever again. I won't forget about you when I sleep. I won't forget about you when I'm trying to sleep.
It's so tragic and sad and still scary because he's in a fucking bunny costume. He walks out just, "Did you forget about me?"
That's some Meat Canyon
Jesus
shit, dude.
Christ. Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Throughout his life, Henry Darger would switch from one menial job at a hospital to the next, usually as a dishwasher or janitor, before finally retiring in 1963 at the age of 71. In 1972, Henry Darger asked his landlord, Nathan Lerner, to help him move into a nursing home. He was eventually admitted to St. Augustine's, the very same place where his father died 64 years before. Back at his apartment, Nathan Lerner enlisted the help of one of his tenants, David Berglund, to help him clear out Darger's old room.
Oh boy.
And of course, his room was filled with tons of junk. Among them was around 100 empty bottles of Pepto-Bismol. I don't think you could get high from it.
No, he probably just had a lot of upset tummies, man.
He did.
He's eating like shit.
Yeah. The Greek deli down there, they raped my tummy. No, I'm sorry.
Jesus, dude. Stop. Fucking
sorry,
gloss over it. Move on. What the
Can't
fuck,
gloss over
man?
it. I just find it so interesting. They just, like, he has no fucking idea what anything is. Like, it wasn't long before they stumbled upon Henry Darger's works. At first, they weren't sure what to make out of these 15 hand-bound books. Inspecting it closer, they realized it was all one story. In the Realms of the Unreal, which he started sometime around 1913 and probably completed sometime in the 50s, totals 15,145 pages and is the longest story ever written. which isn't completely true. Now, there is one story that is longer than that.
What is it?
It's a Super Smash Brothers fan fiction. I'm not kidding. As far as I know, it's still ongoing. It started from... Okay, now this
doesn't count. Shut the fuck up.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like, doesn't count. No.
That's what I'm saying. It was originally... I want to say it was a kid from Mexico when the original Super Smash Brothers like started, and he was actually doing it to help with his English. So it's all in like broken English, but as the years went on, it's in better and better English.
That doesn't make it count.
I'm not going to read it. I'm just saying, that's the longest story ever written, is the Super Smash Brothers fan fiction. But besides that, is in the realms of the unreal. And also, I don't think
fitting that the two up there would just be weird shit.
Right?
Like no, it's not like a good story.
I'm sure James Joyce would have like wanted to be up there, just like, it's crazy and it's brilliant, but it's like, I'm sorry, man, he got taken over by fucking Super Smash Brothers content. Like, the story itself takes place on a Catholic planet where child slavery is commonplace for the godless Gandalinians. Annie Ehrenberg, modeled after Elsie Parabeck, the little dead girl.
Oh, so this guy's like Charlie from Always Sunny.
Fuck, yeah.
Yeah.
Annie Ehrenberg, modeled after Elsie Parabeck, leads a child rebellion against the Glandalinian government. In a shocking display of malevolence, the Glandalinians, led by John Manley, his childhood bully, assassinates Annie Ehrenberg. This sparks a war between Glandalinia and the Christian nation of Abyania, whose armies are led by the 7 princess daughters of Robert Vivian. They are Daisy, Hetty, Violet, Joyce, Jenny, Angeline, and Catherine, more commonly known as the Vivian Girls.
I don't want to make fun of this guy's coping mechanisms. That's not what I don't want to do that, man. Okay,
that's fair.
Yeah, let's just fucking tell me the tale and let's get through this. Okay. I don't want to do it. I don't. I'm not. No, it's like, it's very rare that I'm punching down, but I don't want to do it.
Just imagine him in a bunny costume the whole time. Don't worry about it.
It's not. It's worse now.
The girls.
Yeah, no, this is like a fucking 50, 60-year-old man, like, alone in a weird little hoarder shack.
Yeah, he wrote it for like 40 years continuously.
Yeah, in a bunny costume for warmth. That's so sad, man. This is one of the most depressing fucking things I've ever heard about in my entire life.
Yes.
Top 10,
Got
buddy.
Got him. The girls look to spread democracy to their planet with the creed that it is every child's right to, quote, play, be happy, and dream, the right to normal sleep of the night season, the right to an education that we may have an equality of opportunity for developing all that are in us of mind and heart.
This is so sad.
The evil Glandalinians are known for their distinct look, wearing gray Confederate uniforms and graduation caps, while the child armies fighting against their oppressors are in threads of purple and yellow. The Abyanian children wave flags reminiscent of the American flag, except where the stars would be is a picture of Jesus Christ. The
like just one picture of Jesus Christ, or like 50 little pictures of Jesus Christ?
No, it's just one.
Okay.
Oh, good. I thought if it was 50, that'd be crazy.
50 different pictures of Jesus Christ.
Was that his modeling photo from the summer of 1916?
Jesus Christ in different poses. Be cooler and more honest if our flag was like that.
It kind of would.
It has to be white Jesus, too.
Too tan.
He'd be like, yeah, no, I know what I'm in for.
The Glandalinians, on the other hand, wave banners with pictures of crosses on fire.
He didn't know, right? He didn't know. He didn't
know that was.
Whoa! What a wacky coincidence that is. Fuck.
Oddly enough, those people that burn crosses would be waving both flags. Like, even though the battles are fought in locations like Onion Town and Kitten Mountain and shit like that.
Jesus. Because anything else wouldn't be that much of a fucking bummer.
Henry Darger.
Knowing the dude's background, right?
Henry Darger would document each skirmish and story with not just the cost of supplies meticulously calculated, but pages upon pages of the names of those who died as well. And typically the numbers of casualties would be in the thousands. You okay?
Well, I mean, that's clearly working through some shit from, all the kids dying around him that aren't documented.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Back
so
at the Lincoln
That's,
Developmental
why are you
Facility.
laughing?
It's the
Are you-
only thing to cut
Are you
the tension.
security chuckling?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's
That's a little
fine, I
fucked.
guess. Like, that's what that is. And that's
Yeah, I hadn't
horrifying.
thought about that.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
worse. Anyway, he wrote 2 different endings to In the Realms of the Unreal. One in which the Vivian girls were victorious, and one where the dastardly John Manley leads his army across the land, enslaving all children. I guess it's up to the reader which one they'd rather pretend is real.
Do we know what the John Manley guy did to him, or
Like, specifically?
Yeah.
All that he really said was that he was just a mean bully. Like, just typical bully shit. Probably beat him up and called him names.
yeah? Well, I feel like you could just read through this story and then pretty easily get an idea for like what he did.
Maybe. But, I mean, here's the thing. He didn't, even though he was like...
Because he's just going like one step further from like, well, in his case, he actually did literally give him the name. He's just giving him one step further from like renaming people and writing what you know, and he's just turning it into, like,
yeah,
fancy.
essentially. Like, I can't remember
Like,
if I actually
barely.
put it in here somewhere, but he even named one of the generals after his one friend. Like, he was he was
Yeah.
a super big general and shit. But here's the thing. I don't think he saw the level of violence that he wrote about, and we will touch on that. It
Well-
gets... No. It is, like, Cronenberg levels of violence.
Cool, dude.
So, there is artwork accompanying the story. Remember?
Well, okay, cool. Let me look. What's the book called?
No, it's okay. I've actually got it here with a bookmark in
Fucking
there as well.
Bring it out.
No, hang on.
I'm not kidding. Go grab it. I'm curious.
No, I've got it right here. Hang on.
If you pull out your penis, I'm going to take it away from you.
Gotcha, penis. Remember how I said he was spending money on enlarging advertisements to trace the pictures? They're strewn all over the walls of his apartment. Hundreds of pictures of characters and scenes from the story, a lot of which were made with papers taped together.
How do you have time for this? I thought he was just creepily tracing photos of people that he had enlarged.
Yeah, for fucking 50 years.
Oh, God.
And they were all taped together, too, creating murals that were almost 10 feet in length. And these scenes from the book can be fucking horrifying.
Let's go clean out his apartment. Yep, that's how I thought it was going to look.
You know a good therapist?
No,
Well,
he
yes. There are plenty of pictures of kids just hanging out with fucking butterfly people or riding horses. This book is about a war, and not every battle was won by the Vivian girls and their armies. If the child soldiers were captured by the Glandolinians, Henry would accompany the scenes with art of mutilated bodies, kids' body parts strewn across the battlefield.
This is like traumatic adventure time.
Yes. In a scene of mockery, the
More traumatic
Glandolinians...
adventure time.
The Glandolinians would often crucify these children and disembowel them while they were on the cross. A constant theme of not just death, but also of torture, is the method of strangulation. He mentions with such fine detail how it feels to be strangled that I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, yeah, Henry Darger was probably not given the best treatment at the Lincoln Developmental Center.
A bunch of kids at the Lincoln Development Center were probably strangled to death.
I wouldn't say to death.
How the fuck else are they gonna die?
okay, to
If
to
you're
be
gonna
fair,
strangle
who's
kids
gonna
to death,
know?
that's the best place to do it.
Yeah, who's gonna know? Also, in many of his hundreds of mixed media pictures he created for his books, there are several children seen frolicking, happy and naked and free. But here's the interesting detail on this, though. All the children, both boy and girl, have cock and balls because he never got a formal education. He ran away when he was a kid and never talked to anyone. He had no idea there was an alternative to wieners. He thought everyone had them. Okay, now I'm gonna give you the book here. All right.
Okay. Ooh, it's big.
Oh, it's big.
Ooh, yeah. Oh,
right.
man. Are you going to show me a bunch of pictures of... Okay.
Well, I just wanted to show you the
I know
the
I
one of
said
the
I wanted it, but I
crucified
don't-
children on the battlefield, but I don't think John Manley did this. I don't think people at the Lincoln Developmental Facility did this necessarily.
This is fucking terrifying. You keep this shit in your home? What the fuck is wrong with you? Jesus! Oh my God!
It's kind of funny because it's like
It's not funny at all, Jordan!
I mean, like, it's almost like so he was tracing advertisements. You can see the copper tone girl throughout a lot of these. And, like, it's like advertisement levels of, like, artistry. Flip through it, by all means. But,
Are we
like,
sure this guy didn't kill people?
I know, and that's the thing.
Are you fucking sure?
Yes, and I will get to that.
Okay. No, because here's the fucking thing. You said he, didn't know the difference and didn't, thought everybody had, like, cock and balls and shit.
Yeah.
Why does he know what the inside of a ripped open body looks like so well? Okay? He doesn't know much. He's not a well-learned person. What's up with that, dude?
That's an okay point.
What the fuck?
No, I don't think he knew anything about it, but it's...
And why does he know about these torture methods?
Well, he knows about crucifixion.
Okay, well, he knows about that because he read a lot, right?
He knows about crucifixion because... Yeah. And he knows
crucifixion because of Catholicism.
Crucifixion is the entire religion, and strangulation he knew quite a bit of. Yeah. But yeah, if you cycle through those pictures, a lot of these kids are getting choked.
Does the guy have a boner?
I don't know, possibly.
Shit.
And there's the Glandolinian flag.
The cross isn't on fire, so that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's happy scenes too. It's interesting to see the darkest scenes. What did I do with that bookmarker? Okay, good. It's there, because that was actually a bunch of blank checks. Right? Yeah?
Okay, we gotta move on from this because they can't see what I'm seeing right now, and it's gonna get old, but...
Very easy to look it up online.
Don't fucking look it up. It's...
Y'all should look it up. It's very interesting.
Okay, so there have been some moments in my life where I thought that I had really reached the peak of, like, wow, yeah, I have a good solid understanding of how, like, fucked up the world around me is, and then occasionally something will knock me down a peg further than I thought was fucking possible. Thank you for doing that to me now.
You're welcome.
Like, oh, the world's even shittier than I thought. Great.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Good.
Awesome.
Right. Now,
and we're gonna go lower. God damn.
Now, the landlord, Nathan Lerner,
Can burn that?
No, it was expensive. The landlord, Nathan Lerner, and his tenant, David Berglund, also realized that there in his apartment, he created a makeshift altar. On it was Mary and Jesus, but also a framed picture of one of the Vivian girls. He really held on to the belief that these characters in his story were as close to godhood as anything. Now, here's the thing, though. This isn't Henry's only work. He was in the middle of a fucking sequel called Crazy House: Further Adventures in Chicago. It's about the Vivian girls getting transported to 1939 Chicago, where they encounter an evil house. Children routinely go missing in the house and are brutally murdered by ghosts. Although over 10,000 pages long...
Fuck Chicago.
Yeah, it sounds like any house in Chicago. Although over 10,000 pages long, it was still unfinished. The story ends in the middle of a chapter where the Vivian girls had just rescued Henry Darger himself from the house. This isn't super unusual, as he and his friend William Schloter were both generals fighting for the Abienians in the Glendeco-Angelinian War. It's estimated that Henry Darger...
Just call it the Child Nun War.
I guess. It's estimated that Henry Darger was writing this sequel for the last 20 years of his life. This entire story, by the way, was handwritten, while In the Realms of the Unreal was typed with a typewriter. Not sure why he made the switch.
Maybe he just didn't have a typewriter anymore?
Yeah, it probably broke or something. Yeah, who knows?
I mean, it seems like kind of dude who's like, oh, well.
Yeah.
Like...
I mean, to be handwriting shit for 20 years, I'd have to say it broke and he could no longer afford ribbon or anything else.
Like, well, I hope I find one on the street soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that'd be cool.
The old one was just missing the letter T. It's a good thing I never used that. And remember how he would just say some shit about the weather and leave a conversation if you tried talking to him?
Wait, what?
Like, whenever somebody came up to him and they were like, hey, Mr. Darger, how are you doing? He'd be like, it's sunny in Philadelphia today. And then he'd just run away to his room. And then he'd be like, hey, Mr. Darger, how are you doing today? I'm fine, thank you. You know, he'd just do that shit.
No, you're supposed to practice before, not after. Stupid.
He did actually have a deep fascination with the weather, so much so that he kept a daily diary detailing the weather for 10 years between December 31st of 1957 to December 31st of 1967. He did this as proof of God, to document all the times that the weatherman would fail to predict the weather correctly, because you can't guess what God is going to do. Huh?
Yeah, cool. Go on.
But that's not all. Once he retired, Henry Darger began a very truthful tale of his life, an autobiography called The History of My Life. However, he only manages to recount his memories for about 200 pages before going into a story about a hurricane called Sweetie Pie for the next 5,000 pages. But there were some things he strangely left out. He didn't talk at all about In the Realms of the Unreal, nor did he speak about his frustration at being denied the adoption of a child. He also kept a diary that went from March 28th, 1968 to January 1st, 1972, right before he admitted to himself that he'd need caregivers to help him with his daily tasks. His last entry said, quote, "I had a very poor, nothing like Christmas. Never had a good Christmas all my life, nor a good New Year, and now I am very bitter, but fortunately not revengeful, though I feel I should be by how I am." Now his landlord, Nathan Lerner... You okay, sport?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I mean, not really ever, but that doesn't matter. Go on.
His landlord, Nathan Lerner, was himself an amateur artist and quickly recognized the importance of what he was saying. When Nathan Lerner and David Berglund went to visit Henry, they were told by the staff that he was mostly reserved, not bothering to have any written or verbal communication with anyone. But when the two men told Henry that they found his stash of art and writings, he snapped out of it long enough to say, "It's too late now." Just a day after his 81st birthday...
More serial killer shit. Okay,
Just a day after his 81st birthday, on April 13th, 1973, Henry Joseph Darger Jr. passed away. Died of stomach cancer, which would explain why his tummy was so upset that he would need all those Pepto-Bismol bottles. Originally given a pauper's grave at the All Saints Cemetery in Des Plaines, Illinois, in a section designated The Old People of the Little Sisters of the Poor plot, Nathan Lerner purchased a more fitting headstone, one that labels Henry as an artist and a protector of children. Nathan Lerner himself passed away February 8th, 1997, and both his and Henry Darger's estates are managed by Nathan's wife, Kyoko. While many of Henry's paintings are part of private collections and in museums around the world, a lot of his pieces are still owned by Kyoko Lerner, who never really promoted Henry's art, but is still readily available to show you his paintings firsthand. Henry Darger's artwork typically goes for around $500,000 today. My sources today were Henry Darger by Klaus Beisenbach, Prestel Publishing, 3rd edition, 2019, officialhenrydarger.com, In the Realms of the Unreal by Mongrel Media, 2004, and Wikipedia. You feel good?
No.
You feel up?
No.
Are you ready?
Ready to drink for the rest of the day, I guess.
I'm going to go take a good nap.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bad, actually.
You can follow us on at Caleb Can't Read on Twitter. You can go to our sources page at the Caleb Can't Read sources page on Facebook. You can visit us on calebcan'tread.com. You can send us an email at calebcan'tread@gmail.com. You can suck Caleb's dick.
No, you can't. You can suck my dick, Jordan.
Been there, done that. Wasn't impressed. As a matter of fact, I forgot about you.
Speaking of dicks, there's no way the reason that everything in that has a dick is because he didn't know about another kind of genitalia.
I think he did.
He got in trouble for fucking spanking it.
Yeah.
He's seen at least pictures of naked women.
I don't think he had porn with him.
There's no way he got through his entire fucking life without ever seeing a picture of a naked woman. Or reading that there's different bits.
That could be.
That is
I
not
don't know.
likely.
Honestly, that's what most... and here's the thing, though. It's
a very lazy explanation for that.
I don't know about that.
I think
honestly, okay, so I'm sorry that your 45-minute pedigree into Henry Darger, you think that you know it all. But let me tell you.
No, it's that fucking simple.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I think it goes kind of in the same lane as the whole thing with Elsie Parobeck, the little girl who died. as soon as they looked at his stuff and they read the stuff about Elsie Perubeck and how nobody found the guy who murdered her, everyone went, "Oh no!"
Yeah, right.
Right, but the only reason that they know he didn't do it was because he had everything in his life documented to the point that the more you read about him, the more you knew he provided more proof than anything that he didn't do it.
I mean, he's provided a lot of proof that whatever he is perceiving is going on might not be a reliable source of information, dude.
Oh, he knew what was going on day to day. Just not when that door was closed on his apartment.
So we just think that this fucking insane guy is like, everything that he's written down about his day-to-day, that's 100% what happened. From the man in the bunny suit.
Well, that was the thing, was like, yeah, to a degree, because the thing was
I'm not saying he did, I'm just saying it's really dumb to like take his word on shit. Not that he's intentionally lying.
No, but that was the thing, though, was that he did have the mind of a kid, so when he pretended something, it went from being boring and droll to all of a sudden picking up to being 5,000 pages about a hurricane named Sweetie Pie. Like, he didn't want to talk about real life. He wanted to escape. He wanted to stay a child.
Do you see how maybe that could maybe make his perceptions as to what was actually fucking going on around him and what he was doing a little skewed?
I understand that. I do get that point. I'm just saying, there are people who have looked into this deeper than I have. But, you know, here's the thing. Here's the thing that really, really gets me. And if I had, like, hey, you know what? Right now, Caleb can't read. This is what any kind of donation is going to go towards. We need...
What are you doing with my money? I just fucking assume I'm game for this.
Look, here's the thing. Nobody can read that story. As long as it's been categorized in fucking storage spaces. I
can barely get through 45 minutes of you telling me about them.
I want to read it. I want to read about the Vivian War. I want to read about that shit. But nobody's bothered to type up everything that's going on, and I want somebody to do it. Granted, I know it's not going to be a money pusher because people are going to read through 5 pages and be like, what the fuck? But
think we can just pirate it?
No, you can't, because nobody's typed it up in the first place. That was the whole thing. Nobody's really categorized, like, and I'm sure it's hard as hell to connect the dots between certain chapters. But man, I want to read it. I want to know.
I don't think you do,
I'd have that collection. Oh, I'm sure it sucks. I'm confident it sucks. No, it's going to be bad. It's going to be very, very bad.
It's not going to be fun.
No, it's not going to be good at all. But I want those books, god damn it. I'll take even the story of his life where he goes and talks about a fucking hurricane. I don't care. But that's good shit. That's a good moneymaker. You publish it cheap, you sell it. Fuck yeah, we need to get this project underway.
All right, it's down to you, one listener.
Have fun in Ohio.